Hi everyone, my name's Gemma and this is Jon. I'm from Wizkids and Jon is from Book Creator. Thank you for joining us today. Um, as I mentioned, my name's Gemma. So I am a former primary school teacher and a special education needs teacher. I worked in the classroom for about 8 years and now I've been sort of helping teachers on this big journey of digital learning. If some of you have been watching my previous webinars, you know that I've had a journey in my own, learning all the different platforms and ways of teaching from home. And many of you have actually helped me along that way. So thank you for that. And Jon, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, sure. My name is Jon Smith. For real, I get that all the time. Like, really, is your name Jon Smith? Yes, it is. Especially when I order pizza. That's usually when I get in trouble. But anyway, yes, my name is Jon Smith. I am the teacher success manager here at Book Creator. So basically, lots of webinars, trainings, just anything I can do to help teachers and students out using Book Creator. Taught special ed for 12 years. I was a technology integration specialist for 7. And like I said, now I'm teacher success manager. I've got 3 kids, 10, 6, and 3, who I'm just hoping stay downstairs and finish playing. But I'm sure, without fail, you'll see somebody up here. It's either going to be the 6-year-old or the 3-year-old. That's my guess. At some point during this webinar. Let's see what else. I love golf and clean cars. So I know that it's not real easy, but if you ever had a dirty car and you're anywhere ever near Ohio, bring it here and I'll be happy to clean it for you.
It's good to know. Oh, that's great, Jon. So what our theme today is, if you read our many notices that went out, it is on well-being post-lockdown or post-lockdown, possibly going into another school closure scenario, whatever may be. So we're obviously responding now to the social emotional impacts of everything that has happened in our lives and also our students' lives in the last 6 months, and just how as teachers and as schools we can prepare not only for the students but also for ourselves as educators, because it is vitally important that we take care of ourselves and we prepare this time around just in case. If it doesn't happen, that's fantastic, but in the UK, of course, we're already seeing regions that are starting to get quite strict restrictions. So it's more a preparation, not a fear-mongering webinar. So we hope you enjoy it today. I'm just going to put Jon away for a moment, so he'll see you in just a moment. Okay, we'll go back. So, all right. So what I'm going to talk about for myself today is I'm going to talk about the different strategies as a teacher to prepare yourself in case of a variety of situations. I'm not going to just say if schools are closed. It might be a change in the structure of the school. For example, if classroom sizes have to be minimized, if there's an alternate form of learning. For example, if there is a student in your class that has to self-isolate for 14 days but can still participate in activities, how do you administer that while teaching a class? It's just things, little strategies along the way, and things that I've been talking to teachers about since the beginning of the school year. So since September, the last 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks, having a lot of discussions with teachers in regards to how to prepare best for the unknown, which is, we could say how long is a piece of string, but we're going to do our best in that regard. So I want to start with just some organizational strategies in Google Drive. I know that many schools are starting to use Google, and there's a lot of great things that are coming out of it. But Google Drive is often a very sort of mistaken area of the Google apps. It is basically your hard drive on a cloud. So a cloud is a digital hard drive. You can store as much as you want on there, and you have lots of functionality with it. So when we're thinking organization strategies in Google Drive, you need to ask yourself the following. am I ready, or are my staff ready for sudden changes, whether it be structural changes or school closures? So you're probably thinking, Gemma, why has that got to do with Google Drive? What we need to start looking at is how we're storing our documents in case, for whatever reason, there is a change overnight or within a couple of days. The panic that many teachers had in March, this is something we want to obviously reduce. And I know that many schools are trying that right now. These are things that you can implement into your school, into your classroom, whether you are a classroom teacher, you work, you're a school head, whatever it may be. Think about how the work that you might have on your hard drive on your computer in the classroom, or if it's stored on a central database within the school, it might be time to start taking those files off. The really important ones, maybe it's your lesson plans, unit overviews, very important lessons, whatever it may be, and to now move it over to the Google Drive. And I will show you how to do that, so do not panic. My main question I always get is, oh, but I've been working off Microsoft Word for the last 15 years. What do I do? We'll get there in a moment. So once again, where am I and my staff storing lessons, activities, and important files? So it's now about creating that change in how we store our files, from going from a hard drive on your computer, or a central data system, or whether it's an external hard drive. How can we start storing? And of course, Google Drive is the easiest way to do that, and you can share it with other teachers with no problem. You don't have to worry about things like photocopying, and of course, most easily you can just send it off to your students through things such as email, Google Classroom, things like that, which I know a lot of you are utilizing. Do I have a go-to file in case of a sudden change? Now, I am going to show you this. This is something when I was teaching, I would have a go-to file for myself if I found that I was ill one morning and I couldn't teach that day. And I would have a sick folder, basically, of activities ready to go that I could send to the supply teacher. That morning, they could access the file and take all the work off it. This is a very similar structure in regards if there is a sudden change or sudden school closure. And what it will do is it will get you through the first few days. And it's just about simple organization strategies, something you can plan ahead of time, but also when there is that sudden change, obviously you're concerned about your students, how they'll cope about it, but also for yourself. It's such a sudden change to our work lives, our personal lives. We don't need to panic on the first day of going back into a school closure if that was to happen. What if my home internet is not reliable? This is probably one of the bigger questions I get from a lot of teachers, and obviously right around the UK there is different issues with internet connections. I myself have conducted some webinars, especially in the early days of lockdown, and found that my internet just completely shut off. That is because of overuse of the system. It could just be the area you're in, whatever it may be. If your home internet is not reliable, there are ways that you can share things on Google Classroom and schedule its release to be for the next day or a few hours away. So if you have internet connection at a certain point and you're doing some activities to prepare for the next day, you can actually schedule it for the next day, a few days ahead, whatever it may be, if in case the internet does go weak at that particular time. So just an extra layer of making sure that students get work on time, even if you aren't able to access the internet for that moment. So we're going to look at student preparation in just a moment. I'm going to quickly show you the Google Drive. Now, this is my teacher drive, and as you can see, it is a hot mess. There is stuff everywhere, which is perfectly acceptable, especially at the beginning of term. Always just remember those really good practices of putting things into the files. I always say every half term, sit down for half an hour, just make sure that everything's organized. even put some of your folders from last year that you're not currently using, put it into a school year 2019-2020 folder, whatever it may be, that will help you with your organization. And just reminding you that My Drive section is unique to you. So no one else can see it, so you can call the files whatever you like. You can have whatever intricate organization system you would like. So here I have my go-to file. So normally it would be my sick day file, but this is for home learning. And you can see I've just nominated 3 different areas of learning that I'll approach in the beginning in case of this. So the very general lessons, things that will reflect the age group that I'm teaching, but may not be sticking straight to the unit overview for that week, let's just say. And it's as simple as, and I know this is explaining things in such fine detail that many of you would know already, but it does help, and I talk to many teachers about this, about having this work really well organized, because it will save you a lot of time. For example, with English, you can just put all your English work into a folder there for week 1, which of course, remember, it does link to your Google Classroom. So with that organization, you're able to also go back and review work further down the track if needed. So I also explained that if you the whole transfer of files, and this is something that is really, really important. A lot of teachers do not realize they can do this. So if you've been working off Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel, even PDF, you can now transfer all those files onto your Google Drive and transfer them to a Google app. So for example, if you have a Word document, you can easily transfer it to a doc. So I'm just going to show you with the PDF, because this is a really important one. And I used to either pay for a PDF converter back in the day, or I would have to download some kind of dodgy one that was for free but had lots of advertising. Gone are those days. So file upload. Go into my recent folder. Actually, I'll go into my desktop where it was, and I'm going to upload this folder here. So, or sorry, this file, which is a Key Stage 2 SATs paper. Now, it will take a moment to load, but as you can see, it is loading, and it's just loaded in a PDF form. So you can still transfer your files over from their original file source. However, and this is so good for things like PDF, all you have to do to now transfer it to a Google Doc is right-click on the icon, go up to Open with Google Docs. And now it's transforming that paper. And as you can see, it's now transformed a Key Stage 2 SATs paper that can be written on, that can be changed. You can add colors to it. You can do all that. It doesn't have the graphics of the SATs paper. It does become very streamlined, and that will happen with most PDFs. That is because Google Docs is a simplified, it's a very simplified version. You can get add-ons and extensions to overcome that, but to be honest, if you're wanting to get work out fast, this is the best way to do it. And so this works for, like I said, with Microsoft Word, with Excel, with PowerPoint. You can move it all over to your Google. Also, just to quickly show you, and I'm going to go to my classroom here, and as you can see in classwork, I'm going to create an assignment, and I'm going to show you what happens when you create an assignment and what you will see. So we'll just quickly go SATs, and you could put your instructions there, add from Google Drive, and you'll see there's these 2 options here. You have the PDF version, or you have this lovely version that's been made to docs. You can insert it. I've selected all my students. I'm not going to mark it. I might say that they need to return it to me by next week. I might even want to put it into my English file under topics. And it's as easy as that. It's assigned. Now, You can have other options with sharing of those files, and I didn't quite go through it fast enough. I went through it quite fast, sorry. And that's where you can share off the file and send off individual files to the students. So they don't have to share it all. In that case, the students are only looking at the folder. But there are different ways of doing that. So, but this is one thing that I do get a lot of questions of, is how do I make all my files over to the Google platform? And it does save a lot of time, and it saves a lot of headaches. It might not be the most exciting topic, but it is very valuable. Okay, so student preparation. This is another thing that I get a lot. How do I prepare my students for learning online? We did it, students did it for quite a long while earlier this year, but there was a lot of issues. And that's the one thing that I came across a lot. Teachers having issues engaging certain students. Now, there were ranges of complications that came up, anywhere from not having the adequate technology, internet connection. Sometimes it was students, they were sharing with other siblings, or it could just be that the student disengaged with learning. The best way right now for student preparation, and also for your own being aware of who might have issues with those factors that none of us can control, for example, access to certain technologies or internet in the home. This is a really good way of integrating learning into your teaching. Integrating digital learning into your teaching, and also to have students get used to using things on a digital platform, and not to regress back into just working in paper books. So once we've already got there, we're already starting our digital journey. I know there's a lot of teachers out there that are hesitant to do so, but it is going to be the way of the future. It is how it's going to progress. We're not saying goodbye to paper books. We're not saying goodbye to lessons in a classroom. However, there will be this, and I'm sure everyone's going to roll their eyes when I say it, blended learning, the key term that many of us heard during lockdown, blended learning. So, of course, digital learning mixed with our traditional learning. So, I always say that as a year, school, or a stage, you need to decide how you're going to deliver your lessons. So, for example, Google Classroom or Google Sites. Don't overcomplicate it at first. Make it very simple. So, as a class group, just decide on that one. Or a school, just decide on that one platform. Many schools are already doing that, and many are optioning in for Google Classroom because it has very good security settings, and also it's quite easy to use, both teachers and students. Now, just a little example of how you can apply this into your teaching. I always say a lesson a week using that domain. So the domain in this circumstance might be Google Classroom or Google Sites. And it could be something as simple as putting your homework up on the Google Classroom and having students submit their work on Google Classroom. It will take a bit of time, especially if your students have never used it before. If the students are required to email it, that will also take time. It's about more or less having students used to the practice and not relying heavily on their parents to take the photo, send it off to the teacher. So it's about embedding that whole learning aspect within the student and their capabilities. So because obviously we have a lot of students of different ages, both young and more of our senior secondary students, that might hesitate in regards to this. So this just helps kind of give that familiarity, and also that you're not walking straight away from the digital learning that they've already started earlier this year. Digital citizenship lessons are great. I used to integrate these with my English lessons. I know it's not easy. We have a very full curriculum as it is, but a few digital citizenship lessons really do help. So when I say digital citizenship, I mean, obviously safety online, safety for the individuals and others around them, being kind online, and also being aware that things that go online are there permanently, and things that shouldn't be shared. Obviously, it's just a very important thing to cover, and is becoming a very hot topic as far as safety, online safety, and schools are concerned. And simple lessons such as using Google Docs. Create a check, as I call it. It's a bit cut off on this slide, but a checklist challenge. So students you will say you can open up a document, you can name the document, you can, make a table, add an image, and the students have to tick that off. And when they do that, especially in primary, secondary not so much, but primary, I used to do activities like this, and I would give students a certificate at the end that said everything they were able to do. And it was just as simple as them creating this document, following the checklist, and sharing it with their teacher. And it worked very, very well. Okay, so common practices. This is another thing I have a discussion with secondary and primary head teachers with quite a lot. So a common practice is how you're going to manage your digital learning journey within your school. And there are 3 questions, and they're so typical, and I do apologize for it, but it does help on that journey. Where were we before? Where are we now? And where are we going? It's very essential that these decisions reflect your individual school community. I have worked with e-learning programs and in schools using different types of technology for the last 7-8 years, and I've noticed that every school is different. It depends on so much. It depends on the community. Obviously, also it depends on what kind of resources, digital resources you have. Some schools are very well equipped, whereas some aren't. But there needs to be some kind of journey, especially for this where are we going stage. That's the most important focus, always looking ahead. We know where we are now. We know where it worked. We know where it didn't work. So where do we go from that point onwards? It's not going to be easy, and it's going to be a minefield of, well, we could do that, but, or we don't have this, we don't have that. It's more of a long-term thinking. And some schools it will take years. Some schools it will take a shorter amount of time. It just depends, obviously, on the most important thing: funding, accessibility, and also your school community. Okay, so long-term planning. Digital teams within school communities they've been around for a long time. You'll have a digital lead or some teacher in the school who will take care of that area. But a digital team within a school in other places, in other countries, can consist of teachers, students, parents, members of the community, and they talk about the different things that are coming up as far as things in the school that can be transformed into digital learning. It could simply be an environmental project where the Year 6 class goes paperless for a day or something like that, and they reflect on that. It's about creating interest in these digital technologies, but for a whole perspective. So seeing it from the students, the teachers, the community point of view. It's a big undertaking. Like I said, as the title says, it's a long-term plan. Blended learning, sorry about this. I will show you, it is a good resource that I've created, and I'm happy to share this with anyone. This is a history workbook, or as I like to call, a digital exercise book. This is something you can create within a couple of minutes and share onto your Google Classroom. It's by creating a simple table. So you go insert, table, and just a single table like that. You can expand the table. If you've never used this before, I'm sorry if I'm just going over things that people already know, but you can expand the table, you can minimize the table. To add an image, it's insert, image, and you have all these different options. Search from the web is great. It goes straight to the Google Images. And of course, that's where I got this one from. Name, class, subject, and below it, I have put in different units into boxes. So you might be doing a certain unit on something in the Middle Ages for your class, and you want to be able to keep all that work within the one area. Also, you got Unit 2, Unit 3, but as you can see, it's easily found, especially when we're talking older grades. You might have several pages for just one unit. You can organize it in any way that you want, but the way you distribute this is through your Google Classroom, and when you select the assignment, you select make an individual copy for each student. That way they will get this. It's not a fancy option, it's a very simple option, but it also means that students can take a little bit of time into their own preparation, which is important. So, oh, sorry, I'm to the wrong one. Okay, so just quickly pop that up. So we're now looking at the long-term planning for a shift to more innovative digital technologies. So there are always new things coming out. It's really important to emphasize that some schools will go for some technologies where others won't. Once again, that reflects your community and where the focus will be going. And I've seen some great initiatives of fundraising projects and lots of different things where digital technologies have been incorporated in the classroom. So beyond your interactive whiteboards and things like that. Also, how you can integrate more collaborative and independent learning. Obviously, with school closures, independent learning was a big focus. This was also something that a lot of educators struggled with, especially with the younger students, but secondary, obviously, you had some students that were able to do it, and then you had some that really struggled. Not necessarily just your SEN students, it could be students that perhaps they've always worked very well in more of a social situation. So it's about how we can build that independence, and that is part of long-term planning with digital technologies because of its importance and the fact that it is a remote learning device, especially obviously computers and iPads. And eventually the reviewing of digital technology practices every year or every half year. Some schools are already doing this. Other schools, they're getting new technology in, but haven't got a real plan around it. If you review stage by stage or year by year, it is really important that you do so to make sure that it is relevant. As we know that education now is going to change rapidly one way or another, and technology does that as well. So what might have been popular in January 2019 or something that was really useful might not be the case now. So it's just about renewing it. And very, very quickly, at Wizkids, we have AppWriter, which is a digital reading and writing support tool. You can go on our website and find more information about this, and I'll be very, very quickly on this one. We have AppWriter Cloud, so through Chrome browser, it is a tool basically where you are able to highlight text, and it can read back to you. So you have the text to speech, so you can highlight something, it will come up, it will highlight the individual words. It will also be able to, you have speech to text, so you can speak into a microphone and it can type that out, type out an assessment for you. There were many students that used this during lockdown who had reading, writing difficulties such as dyslexia and other learning needs, and it just made things a lot easier for them to be able to communicate their learning the best way possible. Because as we know, when there is a reading or writing difficulty, it impacts on every area of learning. It doesn't reflect on the individual learner and their ability. So this just sort of breaks down one of those barriers, especially in a home learning situation. And just to quickly show that there is a toolbar, this works for MFL as well. So we do have other languages it can read in. The reading settings you can slow down. So if somebody wants a faster pace or a slower pace, whatever suits them, different types of readers and settings as well. So you can see all that. You can create audio files, you can do all that. Like I said, if you are interested in this, please go onto our website and have a look at it, and we'll have some more information about that after at the end of today's session. So I'm going to get Jon back on. Hi, Jon.
I had to unmute myself there. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Thank you for having me And so I'm going to eventually share my screen. So bear with me. I'm still trying to figure out the whole dual screen thing. I've been saying that for like 6 months, but I'm getting there. So this is an interesting time for sure. I live in the States, and things got really bad. Things started to go down. Now they're going back up. I think it's pretty much the same everywhere. And we're trying to prepare for situations that we don't even know are going to happen, right? We don't know what's going to be the case. So we're trying to figure out things. When this whole thing started, I realized one thing, and I guess it's more of a question. And that question was, who would have thought that a pandemic would have been a thing to help teachers move forward with technology, right? As a tech integration specialist, I've been teaching teachers for years how to use technology. And I never would have thought that it would have been a virus that would have helped me get teachers to move forward. And I thought it would have been my expertise or my ideas or opinions or something like that, but it wasn't, right? It was a virus. And so this is kind of where we're at. And since we've been dealing with this since, March, right? Late February, March, I've learned 3 things that in all the webinars that I've done, all the teachers that I've talked to, I've really learned 3 different things. Stress is high, teachers need help, and easy wins the day. All right. And so those are the 3 things that I kind of want to focus on as I talk about Book Creator and how you can use Book Creator in those different situations. Okay. Teachers are stressed to the max. They need help in any way they can get. And so for me, easy wins the day. And for me, easy doesn't get any easier than Book Creator. So I want to talk a little bit about Book Creator. And so I need to, sorry about that. I need to share my screen here. And I want to show you a little bit about why I think Book Creator is easy and how you can use that with your students. So the first thing I do want to mention, though, is that I'm not going to have time today to go into all of the different features of Book Creator. It's just not going to be possible. But what I do want to show you is that when you create that account, right, if you go to app.bookcreator.com and you create your account, you will have a teacher dashboard that you end up creating. And in that teacher dashboard, there is this Learn tab. And in the middle of the Learn tab, there is a new certification course that we've had out. I guess we've had it out for a few months now. But this course is fantastic. So once you click on this blue button, this certification course will pop up, and you'll get 14 videos that take a deep, deep dive into all of Book Creator's features. None of the videos are more than about 7 minutes long, but 14 videos and a quiz. And when you take the certification quiz and pass, you'll get a certification badge that you can add to your email, that you can add to social media. But the most important piece there is that you will have a really deep understanding of what Book Creator does and how you can use that with your students. So Book Creator is easy. Book Creator is one of those tools that I can use with students from kindergarten all the way up through high school, college, beyond, right? With adults, everybody. And so, like I said, easy wins the day. And it's also cross-platform. So as Gemma was saying, you're going to have situations where you're going to be in the classroom. You're going to have situations where you're out of the classroom. And this is perfect because it's cross-platform. You just need the Chrome browser, Microsoft Edge, or Safari. One of those 3 browsers, and you can use it on your device. So as Jenna mentioned, we have to be ready for sudden changes. And if you're in the classroom one day and then all of a sudden you're not, Book Creator can follow those students. So if they're working on it in the classroom and then they go home, they can work on it on their home computers, on their browsers, and use it there as well. So being prepared for that is important. The other thing that is important about Book Creator is that it's more than just books, right? It can be digital portfolios. It could be books. It could be yearbooks. It could be documents of learning. There's so many different options. Maybe as a teacher, you wanted to create a book that shares your classroom with future students. Maybe it's a book that you put together that talks about your own students in class. What do you know about them? Getting to know them. So it's just a really great tool that allows a lot of creativity. And then the other thing that I want to mention before I actually get in here and show you a few things that I think will help you out as you plan for the new year, as you plan for weird things that might happen, is that Book Creator can give everyone a voice, right? We all have some story to tell, and Book Creator does a really good job of allowing students allows them to have that voice. So, especially now when we have a lot of weird things going on. My own children, due to some future or past health issues and some anxieties and things like that, are at home and they're not in the physical classroom right now. They're doing online learning. But that brings a whole section of social emotional stuff, right, that they didn't have before. And so we're dealing with that, and having a tool like Book Creator where students can share their voice helps that. And we'll talk a little bit more about social emotional learning as well, but it's the same for students that are in school, right? They haven't been in school for 6 months, or more or whatever because of the virus. And now they're being thrown back into this situation, and things are a little different. So we want to talk about ways that we can help that. All right, so if I go back to Book Creator here and I go to my teacher dashboard, all right, there's a couple things that I want to really talk about that will help you be prepared for any situation that may happen. And that first one is organizing your libraries. And I know Gemma talked about organization as well, right? And I just think it's hugely important. So in my teacher dashboard, I have all of these libraries. Now, some of you may have less and some of you may have more, but in these libraries, we can do things to help kind of organize and reduce the amount of stuff that we see. So that first thing that you can do is you can actually archive libraries, right? You can get rid of libraries that you don't want anymore. So for example, if I click on this dot, these 3 dots here in my personal samples library, if I click this button that says archive, I can get rid of this library and it just kind of goes away off the screen, but it's still there, right? I didn't delete it. It goes into this little drop down over here to the left, and this is our archive library section. So I've got all these libraries in here that I just don't need anymore, and they're there. Now, if I want to bring one back, I can click on it. It's very easy. I just click the 3 dots and say restore, and then that library will be brought back to life, and now it's part of my current library. So this is really awesome because you're never going to lose that work that your students and you are creating. This one, for example, was a teacher graduate class, and this was their final project. A couple things to note also about these libraries, it's really, really important, is that you can publish books inside these libraries, and then it gives you a link. You can send that link out to parents and say, hey, check out the work that your student did, and they can view those books. What's really nice about this, though, is that if I decide to archive this library, if I've published those books individually, I can click on the dots and still archive that library, and it cleans up space in my library. But anybody who has that link can still view that book. That book doesn't just stop being published. It goes into this archive folder, and now people can still view the books. All right, so that's an important organizational piece, so that everybody has the opportunity to kind of see what's going on. The other thing, whoops, that was the wrong library. The other thing I wanted to mention that was also, Gemma also talked about specifically, was collaboration. Collaboration is big, right? Because we want to be able to work with students. We want the teachers to work with students. We want students working with students. And Book Creator does have that option for collaboration. So if you are a teacher and you create a book inside your library, you will invite your students to join your library so that they can see those books and they can work on them. In order for that to happen, I click the share button at the bottom, and then there's a little button that says collaborate. And so I click on collaboration, and by default, everyone in the library has the ability to collaborate on that book in real time together. So we could work on the same page together. We could work on different pages at the same time. We could work on different pages at different times. It's very similar to a Google-style collaboration. Now, by default, everyone has that opportunity to edit this book. Sometimes it scares teachers a little bit. Totally get it. If that's the case, once students join your library, there is a little button here that says change. And if I click on change, I can actually choose individual students who might collaborate on that book together. So if you wanted to, you could have 1 or 2 kids working on a book. You could have 3 or 4. You could have 100 kids working on a book. I've done quite a few projects where I've had hundreds of teachers working on the same book at the same time. So collaboration is there, all right? And it's a very collaboration, and then your students are to collaborate. Another thing in terms of collaboration that I think is important is as teachers, Gemma mentioned digital teams, right? Being able to share ideas and work together on digital resources. One of the features that we have in Book Creator is the ability to share a library. So if I create a library for my class and I've got really awesome examples in it, I can invite other teachers to join my library so they can see the cool stuff I'm doing. We work better together, right? Work smarter, not harder. There's so many different phrases that go in that kind of category. And with Book Creator, if I share a library with somebody, they can click this button at the bottom that says Join Library. They enter the code, and then they are able to join the library, and they can see those books that are in there. So share those ideas with each other. Help each other out. Another important aspect of Book Creator, especially as we're going back to school, or especially as we're working with students in remote situations, is that we have to realize that there are a wide range of students and abilities and disabilities, right, that students have. And so accessibility is very, very important. And inside of Book Creator, we have quite a few accessibility options built right in. So the very first one that I want to share with you just has to do with an image. So if I just take a picture, all right, and use that picture, I can also click the plus button, media, import an image from Google search. I can import an image from my computer or my Google Drive. Or like I said, you can take an image with your own camera on your device. But if I click on this image and then click the inspector, one of the options is for accessibility text. So in here, I could put Jon Smith with a goofy smile. All right, so now when somebody clicks this play button at the top to read our book, not only will it read the text and play the video and play the audio, it will also give you the text that goes along with the image. So it will say something like, image, Jon Smith with a goofy smile. So now we are making this book more accessible to all. There are a couple of other options that help with accessibility. One, there is a text option. So fairly self-explanatory, right? You type in some text, but it's very similar to what we talked about earlier. There is a microphone, so you can write with your face. You don't have to type. You can just click the microphone and speak. If you click the microphone, there's a drop-down. Gives you 120 different languages that you can choose from. Now mine's set to English, but if you set it to Italian or French or Spanish or whatever, if I speak those languages, it will do the text in that language. But if I just click the microphone, hey everyone, my name is Jon Smith. All right, now I can go in here and make some edits. Hey everyone, and whoops, maybe I want to change my capital there, get the H out of my name. Awesome. Now I hit done, and I've got my text. Now from here, I can click the inspector and change the size, the font, the color, background, all that kind of cool stuff with my text. But for now, there we go. So I have my text added. So you can use this with multiple students. Good example of this is my own children. The other day, we were doing a Book Creator activity. I wanted them to run around the house, find 5 things that they thought were interesting, and take pictures of those things. So my children are 10, 6, and 3. My 10-year-old, definitely able to take pictures of things. He went to put those images into a page inside of Book Creator, and then he got to the text box and he started typing in his text. My daughter, who is 6, was able to find images, was able to take those photos, put them into Book Creator, but she wasn't able to type and spell and do those things as much as she wanted to. So she used the speech to text and the microphone. So she was able to speak it, and then the sentences appeared on her page, and now she's making a book. And then there's my 3-year-old. So my 3-year-old can't spell. She can't type, right? She doesn't know a lot of words. She can speak though. And so what she did was she clicked the play button, or the plus button, media, and record. And she hit start recording, gave her a little countdown, and she recorded her voice. So I click stop and use recording. And so now if you have students who struggle with writing or language or spelling or things like that, they can add their own voice to the page. And so we have an instant differentiation right there for students of various levels that all can be done either in the classroom or at home. All right, and again, this is very successful for students. they can hear their voice on the page. They love that they can type something or speak something and have it typed on the page, and they love adding images to their work. So those are some accessibility options. If you add video with a camera, we do have the ability to add captioning to that video. So if you have students who are hard of hearing, they can watch the video and see the captions appear on the screen. Lots of choices for students in using Book Creator, and lots of choices for teachers. All right, so a couple of other things that I wanted to make sure that I shared with everybody today is that we do have a new book called Back to School with Book Creator. And this book is amazing. It is filled with tons of ideas for teachers on using Book Creator in the classroom, right? Whether it's in the physical classroom or in a remote classroom. The book is broken down into lots of really awesome sections. So the very first one obviously is an introduction. What is Book Creator? Why are we doing back to school stuff? And then it goes into how to use this book. This link, which I don't think I can put into the comment section, but I'm going to add it to the private chat here. And then that way, Gemma, maybe you can throw that into the comment section. But this book, when you go to this link and read it, there is a button down here at the bottom that says add this book to your library. So when you click on this book, it's going to open your Book Creator account, and it's going to put this book into your library so that you can have it and use it. If you feel like you need to remix it, you can remix it. All right. So again, chapter 1, if you're new to Book Creator, what do I do? All right. So there's an introduction video, there's webinars, lots of great samples that you can view, how to set up your account. So again, if you're listening this morning and you're new to Book Creator, this is a great way for you to check things out. There's a complete webinar, right, on back to school. You can register for future webinars that we have. But there's just a lot of amazing things that you can take a look at here. It talks about archiving libraries, getting things set up. Sorry, I need to go back and make it a little bit easier to get to this time. But the table of contents is a great place to check out. So we've got things, concepts to consider, digital portfolios, collaboration, useful links, digital citizenship, teacher resources, so many options here to take a look at. And then some sample ideas for ways to use Book Creator in getting back to school or in a remote situation, for example. So I wanted to share a few of those ideas that we have. And so a couple of them some of them are my absolute favorites. So just like an all about me page. So as a teacher, you could create a page that looks like this and then invite your students to join your library. They make a copy of this page and then they can add their own bits and pieces telling you about who they are. And so again, we talk about social emotional learning. Now they can tell their story. They can talk a little bit about themselves and they feel good about that. All right, so an all about me type of page. Maybe you want your students to do a book about their favorite things. So maybe you click the plus button and you choose the comic section and you write a little bit about yourself, right? What are your favorite things, right? With mangoes, that sounds really good, right? Likes the color purple, basketball, so many options here for students. But again, it gives them a chance to have a voice. It gives them a chance to share what they know, and it gives you a chance to learn a little bit about everybody. This one is kind of an interesting one. What is in your locker, right? What is in your locker question. Kids keep stuff in their lockers all the time. Maybe that's different now, right? With lockdowns and social distancing and things like that. So maybe it's not what's in your locker. Maybe it's what's at your home learning environment. What does that look like? What time do you get up? What time do you work? There's so many options in here. Maybe a story about summer break. Again, kids love comics, and being able to share their stories through comics is awesome. Post-lockdown reflections. So maybe, something I played with, something I learned, something I helped with, something, I stayed at home with who? What was my favorite moment? What inspired me? What was the worst thing about lockdown? And what did you get better at? I think this is also good, not only for students, but I think it's also good for teachers to kind of think about these things and go through them. There's so many different options in here. A coat of arms is an example. we did find a classmate, right? So if you want your students to get to know each other, find a classmate who has brown eyes, who plays Minecraft, all the things about me. See if I can find somebody else that has those similarities, and then add their picture in there. So now I get to know other students. And these are activities I think that could also be done online, right? So if you're not in a physical classroom, I think these could be done in that remote setting, whether you're doing breakout rooms or whether you are inviting only a certain amount of kids to certain webinars. I think this is really cool. Hopes and dreams. A lot of bad things are happening right now, and it's very scary for people. But if we start thinking about our hope, our dreams, the future, then maybe we can start bringing some of the things that are making us feel down, and bringing them into a positive kind of light. Maybe you just have a creative challenge. What can you make using these items? Can you take a picture of it? Can you write a story about it? Here's one about my Minty, talking about my Minty. Classroom pledges, even classroom rules in what's the word I'm looking for? Classroom rules and regulations and procedures and things like that. You can put those into a book as well. So there are just so many options for using Book Creator. Hang on one second, everybody. I'm sorry. All right, my apologies. That was a 3-year-old. She lasted about 45 minutes longer than I thought she would. So very happy about that. She wants to know when lunch is. So anyway, there are so many options here with Book Creator that I think would really help out with your students. So in the remaining time that we have here, I do want to share a couple of other really cool examples that I think would be interesting. So talking about social emotional learning, we do have a book that can be found in the Discover tab. So if you go to your teacher dashboard and go to the Discover tab, lots of great resources by subject, grades, books written by our Book Creator ambassadors. We have a book on emojis and just using emojis in the classroom. And I think it'd be really fun, no matter what grade levels, how to do different things with emojis. And there's one in here specifically about social emotional learning. And I just think that's important. We have a book on creativity. A lot of teachers right now, especially with all the remote learning and stuff that's happening, are actually jumping into the idea of allowing their students to be a little more creative with things. And so there's a whole book on how to be creative with Book Creator. There is a book specifically on social emotional learning in here. 10 projects that you can use with Book Creator, setting goals, using your 7 strengths, finding feelings, and connecting with pen pals. There's so many options here. And then Gemma also mentioned the importance of digital citizenship. So when all of this happens, talk to your kids about digital citizenship and how you can use online learning for good, right? And not for necessarily bad things, but media balance, privacy and security. There's so many great ideas in this book that I want you to check it out. And then my last sample that I wanted to share with you is this amazing book written by one of our one teacher. Her name is Gwen. And I thought it was really interesting, like, how do we prep as teachers? How do we prep as students? How do we get ready for all of this kind of stuff? How am I going to deliver instruction to these students? So Gwen decided to take Book Creator and make her entire lesson for the week in Book Creator. And so each day, the students will go in, they will make a copy of the book. Actually, it was on a Sunday night. They would make a copy of the book, and then they would go in here, and each day, these students could see, here's Monday's lesson. They read the story, they look at the grammar lesson, they can use the pen tool to draw lines and match the synonyms. They go to the next page, and then they can drag and drop math problems. They can use the pen tool to solve math problems. So there's so many options for Book Creator. And I just thought this was really good. Gemma mentioned, copies at the copy machine. If I'm thinking about this, would I rather spend 2 hours at the copy machine making copies, or would I rather spend a little bit of time making a book like this that students are going to enjoy answering, right, and doing with their families and different things. So I think this is really awesome. So I want you to take a look at those different resources. So again, if you go into your teacher dashboard, click on Discover, you're going to see all of these amazing resources that you can use with Book Creator and with your students. All right. So I just wanted to say again, thank you to stop sharing here if I can figure out where it is. There it is. I'm going to stop my sharing. And thank you, Siobhan. She works with our partnership team, and she was here in the chat window. So if there are any comments or questions or thoughts or things like that, I would be happy to have you put those in there. Again, Gemma, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I think this was a very useful webinar. And I think that, again, teachers are stressed, teachers need help, and easy wins the day. So if we can make things easy and we can help each other out, then hopefully that stress level will go down a little bit.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Jon, for sharing those resources. Again, I always enjoy the book creator stuff and just what teachers can create. So as a former primary teacher myself, I think it's incredible what they can do now. So I just also, just on the entail of that, we do have a book creator and AppWriter giveaway. If you did sign up for this webinar, you will get that sent to your email within the next few minutes. If not, you can use this link here and I will put it into the chat window, and you can access, you can use the form for that one, and hopefully maybe you might be the lucky winner of a book creator and AppWriter premium pack, so which will be very useful for the beginning of the school year.
Absolutely. So good luck to everybody who fills that out.
Yes, and any questions along the way, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself or Jon. And we always like sharing our different takes on teaching, and especially right now, it's a changing world. So it's great to hear other perspectives and obviously how other teachers are doing it. So thank you, everyone. And yeah, thanks to our Wizkids and Book Creator team as well for helping organise this. And we hope to see you again soon. Thank you, Jon.
All right. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye, everybody.